We're going to go through the five key concepts that I think apply to every single technique within climbing, and we're going to give you 2 different climbing drills to do for each of those concepts, which will help you perfect your technique across the whole spectrum. Luckily, we are joined by Jen Wood today, who is at the moment one of the most successful climbers in the UK and also a competition coach. She's going to be running us through our first concept, which is balance.
Cool, so our first drill for practicing balance is going to be one-handed climbing. So I'm going to find like a nice slabby bit of wall, pick a climb that's kind of way below my normal limit, and just have a go at climbing it one hand so that I really have to find that balance point so I can move to the next hold. So I'm getting my hips nice and close so that I'm nicely in balance before moving to the next hold. Hey. So I actually had to do that first move quite dynamically, which is not really what we're aiming for in this session. It's more about finding that point of control. So I'd probably actually start this boulder a little bit higher just to make sure I'm fully on the slab, and then I don't have to snatch. I can get really close in and go quite slowly and in control to the next hold. So when you've done a few boulders, sort of swapping hands and seeing if it feels any different, you can challenge yourself by just getting on harder boulders, and just see what happens. So yeah, there's slightly harder moves on that. Just made sure I really had to think about getting into a good position to be able to move my hand. So now we've come over to a steep wall, so we're going to talk about balance and control in steep terrain. So say for this red climb, there's 2 ways to do it. You could do it quite dynamically, or you can do it really balanced. So dynamically, it's not necessarily a bad thing, but when we're talking about learning balance, then a really good constraint to your climbing to learn how to get into those balance positions is to hover over a hold. So then you have to find that point of balance that means that you can kind of isolate above a hold for a couple of seconds. So in order to find those balance points, you'll probably find you have to explore quite a few different techniques so that you're able to take a hand off and hover. So if you normally climb quite dynamically, this can be a really good way to kind of force you to learn those new techniques, such as twisting, drop knees, flags, full stop. So for this first move, I'm going to have to find kind of like a tripod position so that I can hover. So I'm going to use my leg and drop my knee, get my hips close, and it means I can take this hand off.
So we've covered the concept of balance in climbing, which I think is particularly important for climbs with small holds or really delicate climbing like slab climbing, which is very technical. But obviously that kind of slow methodical movement isn't always what you're going to do in climbing. You often have to do things very fast and dynamic. So this next concept is about accuracy. In climbing, this is going to be sort of hand-eye coordination, hand-foot coordination, and importantly, the coordination of where we get our center of mass at the beginning, at the end, and throughout a movement too. So we're going to do a few drills now to try and develop our accuracy within climbing.
So the first drill we're going to go through for dead points is feet on doubles. So this is a really good one for building that hand-eye coordination and also that accuracy so you hit the holds right. So I'm going to start nice and steady, something not too steep on this white, and I'm going to go both hands at the same time, which means I need to generate and look in the middle of the holds and aim to hit them right. So this drill gets harder the more offset the holds are. Also, the smaller the holds as well, obviously the harder it gets. Okay, so I'm going to try this black now to really challenge my accuracy. The holds are a lot more offset and quite a bit smaller. Cool, so the next drill is a little bit more challenging, but we're going to jump to hold, so off the ground, using another hold as a bit of assistance, and we're going to aim to jump really accurately to another hold. And you can just make this more and more challenging, the smaller the holds, or choose blocked holds. So I'm going to start with this red, so a nice big hold, and I'm going to jump to that one and then aim to control the end position. Cool, so that was a nice steady one. So I'll probably look to challenge myself a bit more now. So perhaps this yellow, it's got a bit of a pocket in it. I'm going to have to aim and be really accurate. nailed it. So the ideal scenario with this drill as well is that you hit the hold accurately first time and you don't have to readjust. So I'm going to really challenge myself now and aim to jump to this blocked hold on the orange. So I've got to be super accurate to make sure I hit the right bit of the hold. Yay. So this is a really good one to do at sort of the end part of your warm-up. I know that's when Josh really likes to do it. It really activates your fingers and shoulders as well.
Just a quick message to say, if you're looking for more support for your climbing and are wondering how to incorporate elements of this technique development into your physical training, your strength or your fitness, that is what we do for our day-to-day. We provide training plans for people that want to get better at climbing, and we do this with a fairly holistic approach. We always think that our strength and our power development needs to be linked to the practice we do as rock climbers in developing our technique. If you want more support, just check out the link in the description below for our training plans. Back to the video. This next concept is really starting to link them all together. So this is about timing and momentum, and you can't really have this without the accuracy element as well. With timing and momentum, it's all about how we move through space efficiently. So are we generating momentum through the strong part of our body, being able to catch a hold with a good amount of timing to then create tension? All of these things are very important to efficient movement, and Jen's going to show you a couple drills which are excellent for developing it.
Drill number one is one-handed climbing, and unlike the slab drill where we were aiming for that control, we're actually going to move dynamically here and use our momentum. So I'm going to try it on this green. I'm just going to move my right hand, which means I'm going to generate all the momentum from my legs. So I squat and I can power through my legs, get my hips close to the wall so that I can release and grab the next hold. So the other important thing to remember here is when to let go. So you want to make this really efficient. So you don't want to be snatching with your hand. You want to let go when you've got that control and you're close to the wall. So I'm going to power up from my legs and I let go when my hips are almost touching the wall. And that means I've got that time to grab. So this is a really fun session to get playful with as well and just see what works. You know, it's okay if something doesn't quite work out, but really challenge yourself. I'm going to try this green, see if I can make it work one-handed. And it might mean that I have to time my legs as well, which could be fun. Oh, okay, that's a hard one. I think that'll work, that'll go. Yeah, okay. Josh is saying toe behind the big one. See if that can work. Oh!
What about heel on the near side one?
Okay, last try. I'm going to try and catch a heel. Oh, gee. So drill number two for practicing momentum is dynos. Doing a dyno just really forces you to use your momentum. You've got to drive through your legs. You've got to time it accurately so that you can let go and grab the next few holds. So we're going to start nice and steady with this one. So the aim is that you do go airborne, but we can start really nice and comfortably. So I'm going to aim for those two greens up there. So I'm going to really think about driving through my legs, letting go when my hips are close to the wall, and then looking at the holds. And then to challenge your momentum and also your timing, you can increase the distance or increase the difficulty of the holds you're grabbing or how offset they are. So I might aim to go to these two blues, so it's a little bit offset, and I'll have to think about that timing a bit more. So it's fun to get quite creative with this one as well. So you can challenge yourself, aim for some funky looking holds or aim to plant a foot as well. Just have fun with it. So I'm going to try and go to that black and plant a foot on there. Wow. That was so much worse than I thought. So for this jump, I've picked one where I have to roll over a little bit, and that makes me think about where I'm generating my momentum from and kind of the takeoff point of the move. So I actually do a semicircle for this one so that I hit the holds in control. So my trajectory is pulling over this foot and then arcing round. Oh no.
With this next concept, we're starting to build a pretty complete picture of very skillful movement within climbing, which is going to help you move more efficiently. But the interesting thing about this next one, which is pressure distribution, is it's not something that you can see clearly done in climbing. It's more about internally how you're balancing your tension in certain parts of your body, but also relaxing in other parts of your body. And something I think is important to get across here is when we talk about tension or pressure, you don't want to just tense everything. Very skillful climbers will be isolating their fingers, maybe their core, but relaxing other parts of their body at the same time, so that we're kind of conserving energy. And when we talk about pressure distribution, we've got to keep that in mind, while also thinking about how we're using the direction of pull on certain holds and how we're maintaining tension through our feet and through our fingers. Within this concept of pressure distribution is also the idea of being upper body dominant or lower body dominant. In climbing, this is sometimes referred to as front wheel drive versus rear wheel drive climbing. And what we want to do, ideally in climbing, is use as much of our lower body, those big, strong, powerful muscles, to do our climbing for us to make it more efficient. So this first drill that Jonah's going to go through is all about how to utilize our lower body to make movement more efficient.
You'll get to this stage in your climbing when you don't always have 2 feet laid out for you for each move, and you have to think about how you're going to apply pressure to get the next hold with just this one foot hold. So this first drill, we're just going to get ready for that. So we're just going to use 1 foot hold for each move. So I'm going to try it on this blue. I'm going to choose this foot hold, and that means I want this leg to be doing something useful. So I'm going to think about applying pressure on the wall where maybe I'd want a foothold. Then I'm only allowed 1 foothold for the next move. So with this constraint, you'll find you're probably forced to flag a lot and really think about your lower body movement and where you're applying pressure and where you're getting that momentum for the next move. You'll find if you're not applying pressure with the other foot, the move will be much more strenuous. So for example, this first move, if I don't place my left foot on the wall and just dangle it, it's actually just a dead weight and I have to pull against it. And the move's much more snatchy. So I'm going to try something a little bit harder, and I'm only allowed 1 foothold for every move again. So don't forget, you can choose which foot you use for each move. So you may find that you can play around with like left foot for one move and it doesn't feel that good. So you could try again with the right foot, see if that way feels a bit more efficient. And this means you might end up practicing both flagging, but also things like pogos as well. The next drill is one of my favourites. So this is a really good one for learning how to really apply pressure through your toes, but also keeping your whole core really tight. So for this, we're going to pick a steep bit of wall and basically move our feet around, and we're going to challenge ourselves and get really stretched out so it becomes harder to apply that pressure through our toes. So I'm going to get a nice comfy hold, this pink, and I'm going to walk my feet around a bit. So the aim here is to do around 10 foot moves and really challenge yourself, pick some smaller footholds or slightly slopey footholds. Yeah, just get really stretched out. Oh, that is a good one. A progression on from that previous drill is to swap it round. So we're going to keep our feet in the same place and move our hands. So again, it means we really need to apply pressure and tension through our toes. So I'm going to try it on the board. And I've picked 2 feet here, so I've gone for the slightly larger feet to begin with, but you can go smaller feet to challenge yourself. And I'm going to see if I can move my hands around for around 10 moves. Again, for this, the aim is to get really extended, so you're challenging yourself. You want quite steep terrain as well. Again, the steeper it is, the harder it'll be, and then the smaller the feet, the harder it'll be. So I'm going to try it again with the black feet and see how I get on. Yeah, that was much harder.
So we've covered balance, accuracy, pressure distribution, and timing and momentum. And with all of these skills, your movement starts to become more refined, more efficient, and this is why it's different from just learning a heel hook or a drop knee. It's about everything that goes into applying those techniques, which actually makes you go from a relatively novice climber to an elite level climber. This last one is about how you apply that more cognitively, and I'm going to call this one the power of prediction. This can still be integrated into movement, so if we look at the things we did in timing and momentum, it's about predicting where your hip position is going to finish and making sure you land with that sort of apex of trajectory. But ultimately, the most important part, which you should be doing every time you climb, is predicting the movements you're going to do. So route reading before you get on the wall so that you're able to execute the techniques which you've already planned in your mind. There's a lot of nuance and small skills to learn when it comes to route reading, but we're going to show you some practice drills that you can do where you can refine and apply those continuously to develop your route reading skills. And this first drill that Jen is going to show you is something that I think you should do literally every single week, maybe even at the beginning of every single session if you are one of those people which really struggle with route reading.
And this drill is flashing boulders. So this means you're really putting that pressure on that one attempt to make sure you can predict as much as possible about the boulder. So I'm going to try it on this yellow because I know that'll be pretty challenging for me. So I'm going to look at all the holds, try and predict the best places to hold them all. So particularly ones like this, you want to look at the good bits. Sometimes getting a brush can give you a bit of a clue as well. Also where the chalk placement is. See here with this undercut, there's a bit of a thumb catch there, so I'm thinking that's where I'm going to want to hold that one. Another thing you've got to think about is like predicting how to generate momentum. So this first move, for example, I've only got this volume for a foot, so I'm thinking right foot and a bit of a pogo to get that momentum to this hold. Thank you. Next thing, always prep the boulder, give it a scrub. You see, I can feel this bit's actually a bit deeper as well with the brush. Bit of a clue there.
She's got the shaggy top on and she's talking about clues.
So this drill is a really good one to do right at the start of your session when you're thoroughly warmed up but you're quite nice and fresh. You want the level to be pretty challenging. I'm so out of breath. You want to do it on challenging boulders as well, and you're going to be accessing that proper try hard. So yeah, it's good to be fresh but thoroughly warmed up, and I'd probably aim to do it on around 6 boulders as well. So the next drill is eliminates. So this is a really good one. If you're doing flash boulders sort of quite regularly, it's quite likely you're going to run out of new boulders. So this is a really good way to kind of recycle boulders that you might have done before, but it also makes you think about choosing holes to eliminate that will actually make a viable boulder. So it really makes sure that you understand how the boulder works. So I'm going to try it with this pink. I've chosen to eliminate this pocket and this pocket. I'm anticipating this move will be pretty challenging. I'll need to generate momentum probably from this hold, maybe the wall as well. So this is another drill we actually use to really work that momentum and power as well, as it often forces quite large moves. So if you're doing it on easier boulders, you could try and eliminate multiple holds, whereas on harder boulders, eliminating one hold to make quite complex movement patterns is a really good way to challenge yourself. If you found any of that video useful, please subscribe below. We're almost at 200,000 followers and it'd be really cool to get there before Christmas. Thanks for watching.